Ouran High School Host Club is a classic anime. Not just classic in the way of being one of the early shows imported to the US with a proper dub, but insofar as there's a lot to pick apart. So many things you feel you understand early on, only to realize it was only the top layer you were seeing. Since high school, this has been one of my favorite anime, and yet it was only on a recent rewatch that I noticed some of the aspects that makes it great. Like with many works of its kind, the best parts of Ouran comes in the details. For instance, when Hikaru gets jealous of Haruhi and Arai. On the surface, we could say that it's because he likes Haruhi and sees Arai as a rival for her attention. While that is true, though Hikaru doesn't really understand that he's feeling this way, that's not the end of it. He acts out so because he's used to being everything to those he's close to. Yes, he's only ever been close to Kaoru, but up until recently, his brother and he were the extent of their world. As Kaoru himself says, before now, it was the twins, and then everyone else. Only recently did they start to open up to others, so their understanding of how to be friends with outsiders and share them is still foreign, especially for Hikaru, who even needs to learn to care about his loved ones' interests and pay attention to them instead of always acting on his own whims. Kaoru points out that Hikaru doesn't think through the context of things he sees or reason them backwards, nor does he follow through on what necessarily comes after his actions and how they affect people. He needs to think things through in both directions. That's the reason why I'm not upset by Hikaru and Haruhi's random date in Kuruizawa. It's not because the show is trying to suggest that there really was a reverse harem among us. It was a learning experience for Hikaru to help him start to understand himself, learn how to display his affections towards others in a non-selfish way, and to just care about the needs of those he cherishes. Even though he improves at the end of the episode, it's clear that Hikaru still hasn't completed his journey, as Kaoru so insightfully points out, and I'd say he's still got a ways to go even after the anime ends. I also love how intuitive Kaoru is. At a glance, his thoughts on the host club and its members can seem like pretentious waxing, trying to make the show seem deeper than it is. But as I found in my recent watch through, he has seen things that most of the club isn't aware of or just aren't outwardly acknowledging. He's the one who notes the reasons behind Tamaki's insistence that the club is a family unit, how this time in their lives is a temporary refuge for some troubled individuals, and that Hikaru doesn't need him like he used to. Slowly, his brother has started to become his own person, developing deeper connections to people separate from Kaoru, acting out of sync with his twin, even pushing his brother out of bed for the first time. There was a point where Hikaru couldn't operate without Kaoru, but that time is coming to a close. Not that it's a bad thing, both are really benefiting from tearing down their iron curtain, and I think this situation is an important one to depict, especially in shows for young people. Wow, I'm 24 already and already sound old. Existential crises aside, this experience can be found everywhere in real life. Not to the extent that Hikaru and Kaoru were so closed off, but most of us will experience having a strong bond to someone and then eventually growing out of it. Not to call it a phase, but also kind of. We need certain things at a specific point in our lives, and that includes people. It's all part of not just growing up, but growing into ourselves, which ideally continues through your adult years. Sometimes it's someone to care for you in hours of darkness, someone to show you how far you've strayed from who you want to be, someone to guide you towards your life goal. The list goes on. Then after the hurdle is conquered, we may find ourselves no longer needing those people and eventually drifting apart. Though not by choice, but by simply being different people now because, ideally, you would have taught them something too. This ends up incidentally seeming like a transactional relationship, but that is reductive. Experiences change you, and so your time with some people will be necessarily temporary because you're both becoming different people as you have them, and your needs might not change in the same direction. This reminds me of my best friend in high school. Though I'd had best friends previously, I was never close to any of them or anyone like I was with this person, and have since only been this way with one other. It didn't start out as such. But by sophomore year, they were basically my world. We saw each other through terrible times, they helped me to stop self-harming, and they were the only person I would have nightly phone calls with. When I think back, it's almost scary how close we were, and rather sad that we aren't that way anymore. It wasn't purposeful that we're now apart. We both changed through the lessons we taught each other. There came a time where we didn't need the type of relationship we had. And although I sometimes want to reach for this previous bond, it is searching for a remembered history rather than the person that they are today. It's not that we refuse to talk, but that we're different people now and don't need to be how we once were. And that's okay. It'll be okay when Hikaru wants to branch away from Kaoru. It'll be fine when the host club eventually disbands because they will still have the lessons and love they gained from spending their afternoons in Music Room 3. Even if they grow distant, they will still have that special connection between them all. Thank you very much for consuming this video. If you want to talk to me about just about anything, feel free to hit me up on Twitter. You can find me on NotAVampyre. Thank you very much again, and until next time.